Hello folks, hope everyone is well. So here to speak about a very important transit that's coming up this month. In fact, the summer months will see a Venus retrograde cycle. This Venus retrograde transit will start at 4 degrees of Leo in Magha on July the 23rd. Then Venus will return to Cancer in Ashlesha on August the 7th. Venus resumes direct motion on September the 4th in Cancer at 18 degrees in Ashlesha. And Venus will be Gandant from August 4th till August 8th. And then again from 30th September till October 3rd. And we've already experienced this Gandant transit. Yeah, in fact, it ends on July the 9th, from the 6th to the 9th of July. So it's the usual 40-day retrograde cycle for Venus. And this time, the transit's taking place mostly in Cancer in Ashlesha. Let's talk a little bit about Ashlesha. Ashlesha is not an easy nakshatra. In fact, it's quite a difficult energy. And especially for Venus. In fact, according to the classics, the only planet that does reasonably well in Ashlesha is Ketu. Because Ashlesha's higher vibration is the ability to access the Kundalini Shakti. So, what better planet than Ketu to tap into this sleeping, coiled power through spiritual practice, right? But Venus is completely misplaced and incompatible, both in Cancer as well as in Ashlesha. Venus is a Rajasic planet, and therefore will feel very frustrated and out of place here. Rather here, you will need to review your relationships, whatever lies beneath the surface, and really assess the situation, right? In this process, you'll be confronted with toxic patterns in yourself and in others also. The poison that lies within Ashlesha will become obvious to you now, and you'll have to surrender old attachments. You'll have to let go of unhealthy attachments, of toxic relationships, in order to detox, in order to move on. So first I want to speak about the beginning of the Venus transit. What are the patterns that we see at that time? So the beginning of the retrograde transit of Venus on July the 23rd, Venus will connect with Saturn and Mars, as it is now. Being in Leo, it's sitting with Mars, being aspected by Saturn. In a conjunction with Mars, getting the direct aspect of Saturn. Mars will be in Leo at this time, July 23rd, in the nakshatra of Uttra Phalguni. Saturn will aspect Leo from Aquarius, sitting in Shatavisha. As usual, the themes of reconnecting with past love, past relationships will come up with this transit. And this is especially the case because we have Venus and Saturn across from each other. And at this time, they're both sitting in the nodal nakshatras. Right? Venus is situated in Magha, in Ketu's nakshatra, and Saturn in Shatavisha, in Rahu's nakshatra. So this increases the probability of connections having a very karmic, fated, and like that difficult to escape feeling about them. And you'll also be questioning which relationships are built on realistic expectations with that Saturn aspect on Venus. And with Mars in Uttara-Phalguni, some relationships can break suddenly now. It's a time where you could be reviewing your finances and investments with more scrutiny as well, and it would be a good time to do that. It's not really a good time to buy items such as like beauty items or luxury items like jewelry, art, that kind of thing. At the beginning of the retrograde cycle, Venus is in conjunction with Mars. But Venus is also getting the very close aspect of Rahu from Aries in Leo. Yeah. So it's a difficult situation for Venus in the beginning. 3 malefic aspects, but the saving grace of Jupiter is also there, because Jupiter is also aspecting Leo in the beginning. Yeah. So this benevolent aspect of Jupiter from Aries is going to help balance out the malefic aspects. It's going to also bring a solution to the problems that you might be undergoing, connected to whatever Venus rules in your chart. Yeah. The Saturn restraint and caution will also be overpowered by the intensity of Rahu, Mars, and Jupiter, all sitting in fire signs. There will be a passionate quality to your relationship experience, whether it's with someone from the past or it's someone that you've just met. Sudden attractions at this time can also result in affairs. Of course, there's Saturn's aspects, so it's important to check all the facts about this person. Yeah. So let's get started with a deeper discussion on Venus retrograde cycle. Yeah. Now, Venus turns retrograde every 8 years in the same sign. So from July 2015 till September 2015 may give you some clues as to what was happening at that time in your life. Of course, at that time, Venus was not connecting with Rahu, but it was receiving a Saturn aspect, as well as it was conjunct with all of the other planets at some point. It's very important to see the conditions of planet when they're going retrograde and then when they resume the direct motion, just to get an idea of what to expect during that transit. Now, of course, this retrograde cycle, Venus is starting its retrograde phase in the nakshatra of Magha, in the sign of Leo, and the Navamsha of Taurus. In the Navamsha of Taurus, it's joined by Rahu. Saturn is also retrograde in Aquarius at this time, across from Venus. So you may be feeling disconnected with your partner at this time, if you are in a relationship. If you're single, you may be rethinking what's important to you in a partner. You could be changing your mind about the people that you've recently met. There will certainly be powerful attractions at this time with the close link of Rahu and Venus. Of course, being that Venus is Jal Tattva, right? It is the water element, and it's getting so much fire influence at this time with the aspects, with the conjunctions. It's important to step back, because relationships will feel frustrating, and you could very well overreact with all that fire influence. And I mean, when I say overreact, I mean the sense that, you might sort of say, oh, I'm just going to ditch this. I don't need it. I don't need the tension. And that's connected to whatever Venus represents in your chart. But it's also just connected to relationships generally. It's also connected to things that you value. So don't make big decisions on those things at this time when Venus is retrograde, especially in the beginning of the transit. especially in the beginning of the transit. Yeah. July 27th, we experience an exact conjunction with Mercury and Venus. Here there may be some arguments. It's again in that fire energy getting exaggerated with all the malefic aspects. There will be an attempt to talk through your frustration, but likely you may not be heard at this time. Okay. August 7th, when Venus moves back into Cancer, it will conjunct Sun. There will be a conjunction of the Sun and Venus until August 18th. Yeah. So let's speak about Venus in Cancer. Despite that combustion of Venus at this time, being so close to the Sun, I think that Venus in Cancer is going to be a less turbulent transit than the portion in Leo, simply because of the malefic aspects to Venus. So let's speak about Venus in Cancer. Why does Venus not do particularly well in Cancer? We have to examine the relationship between the Moon and Venus to understand that, right? Like Moon being the ruling planet of Cancer. Moon is what? Moon is sattvic. Moon is sattvic energy, whereas Venus is rajasic. So we can get some clues here. Venus's desires don't get satisfied in Cancer. It feels a lack in Cancer. And therefore, with this placement, you can feel that lack in your intimate relationships. Cancer also being a Chara sign, a movable sign, you could be going from one relationship to the next to satisfy this lack, but always come out feeling more and more disconnected with the people that you meet. Cancer also tends to be more of like, it's a motherly love, right? Like an unconditional love. So you may be seeking this in your partners, but then they tend to fall short here. Because Venus is not at all about unconditional love. In fact, quite the opposite. Venus is transactional in nature. It's all about the give and take, the seesaw effect, right? Because that's what Libra symbolizes. You do for me, and I do for you. So there must be a balance. There must be an exchange. Otherwise, the relationship won't last. Otherwise, the relationship won't flourish. Whereas Venus in Cancer doesn't understand the difference. It gets frustrated in Cancer because Cancer tends to kind of personify like a needy love, a clingy love, especially in Ashlesha, which can be very clingy. And that clinginess that's personified by Ashlesha is not a healthy one. Ashlesha can also personify toxic relationships, poisonous relationships, where the attachment has become so negative that you feel stuck, that you feel like you can't get out of it. So these themes will come up with such a long stay of Venus and Ashlesha. Relationships that have had a long past, they've been way past their expiry date, but you're still clinging on to them. Or they're still clinging on to you. But both of you are miserable with each other. That's going to surface. And you're going to need to reflect on that when Venus is in retrograde. And find a way to let it go. Let others go. Wish them well, but let them go. The time when this decision becomes imminent is when Venus makes a conjunction with the Sun. And when Venus retreats back into Cancer, right? This will be from August 13 to approximately August 18. Then you can have like an aha moment about a relationship. Especially if your relationship has been going through problems, clarity is likely to come now. This will lead ultimately to a deeper intimacy and authenticity in your relationship. Alternatively, on the other hand, it can also bring the clarity that leads to a separation, that leads to a discussion, which leads to a final break, right? From August 7th until August 2nd, Venus remains in Cancer, unaspected by any planet. And this is when things will be much calmer. And this is when you will be able to reflect with some degree of clarity. On August 4th, Venus resumes direct motion in Ashlesha in Cancer. When Venus is in Cancer, it's going to be more internalized energy because there's no planets that are conjuncting Venus nor aspecting Venus. Right? So all the activity in relationships, the socializing, the dating, the networking, the disagreements with your partner, that can slow down at this time. So it's a good time to actually reflect and introspect. August 7th onward. At this time, relationships can feel nurturing. You would want to spend more time at home, indoors, quiet hours, behind the scenes. But again, because Cancer is a Chara sign and it's retrograde at this time, Venus is, you can also be traveling. You can be reconnecting with family as well. You can also find it useful to do home activities, renovation, repairs, construction. Looking for other sources of income is also supported when Venus retrograde is in Cancer. As we discussed, the first notable point in the retrograde cycle is the actual day that Venus goes retrograde, which is July the 23rd, 4 degrees of Leo. The second is when Venus is conjunct with the Sun from approximately August 13th till August 18th. And then there's a third very important point in the cycle, and that's the day when Venus, again, returns to the place where it first went retrograde at 4 degrees of Leo. This time in order to pass through and onward. This is when you will feel that you have come to a resolution, that you're happy with your relationships or the choices that you've made in your relationships, or all the matters that are connected to Cancer and Leo in your chart as well. So see that too. And this is on October the 6th. So this is not until October the 6th that Venus returns to the exact same point where it went retrograde in July. On this day, the cycle's themes resolve and they complete. Leo is about being magnanimous in love, relationships. It's about being expressive, but also somewhat domineering. Venus doesn't do well in the sun sign of Leo because Leo tends to encourage more individualistic goals and expression rather than couple-driven goals. Right? But it is, however, in Leo a good time for dating, having fun, but not for making final decisions about people because of all the aspects that Venus gets. And if you're coupled up, you can definitely experience ego conflicts, especially in July because of Mars is also sitting in Leo. The me versus us dilemma is highlighted whenever there is the Sun and Venus involved. The Sun is, of course, the individualistic principle, whereas Venus embodies the relationship principle. And often there is a struggle between the two. Venus in Cancer and Leo can also promote a lot of second guessing in relationships. In the signs of the Moon and the Sun, Venus feels restless. And this can lead to thoughts of what else is out there. Is there someone better for me? Venus also represents all our relationships, and when it's retrograde, it can bring very intense obsessive attractions into your life. But as usual, you may not be getting all the facts about the person. So don't make your final decision about them during the retrograde phase, I would say. This is doubly the case with this particular retrograde cycle because Rahu is so closely aspecting Venus. It will offer us all a time to understand where our resources are being put in life. Where are we getting something in return? Where are we not? And the importance of saving for a rainy day. What are we valuing? And are we getting the value back what, it could be in relationships, the time and energy we're spending. It could be the things that we own, especially in our home. So it's a really good time to actually declutter, or even buy new things for your home. Get rid of the old. Yeah. Retrograde, of course, also implies unconventional or unorthodox. So there could be something unorthodox or unusual about your connections, about your attractions at this time. For instance, there could be age gaps, social religious diversity, distance in relationships, all those things. Yeah. This can also apply to how you make money. If you ever thought about doing your work remotely, on a contractual basis, on an independent basis, rather than working for a company, then this would be the time to look into it. Yeah. For all the retrograde periods, going inward can be quite rewarding, and you can deeply understand. You can deeply understand if you're on the right path with the matters connected to Venus in your chart, whatever lordship, whatever it rules in your chart, yeah. But also don't hesitate to take initiative. You may have to revise, you may have to rework certain matters when the retrograde period is lifted. When we have a transit that is similar to our birth chart, it will be much more relatable, and you can take advantage of its energy more easily. So if you have a Venus retrograde in your chart, or if you have Venus in Cancer or Leo, then this is the Venus return. Then this is an excellent time for you to renegotiate matters connected to relationships, to income, to savings. One thing that is unquestionably a trademark of Venus retrograde is a lack of self-love, a lack of self-acceptance. So you can use this Venus retrograde to improve how you feel about yourself, to love yourself more, to give more time to self-care. Think about what you value: home, food, family life, business, your creative pursuits. How much time do you spend on the things that you love, right? Because this transit is taking place in Cancer and Leo. How much time do you spend on the things that you love? Find and reflect the reasons for the problems in earlier or current relationships as well. This is where old relationships reappearing can help you, because they can help you clear away the past to make room for new relationships. Even reminiscing about old partners will help you to remove some of that karmic baggage, just to lighten that load. Right. So some examples of what can happen in relationships. You can meet people that you really connect with, but later you find out something about the person that was not revealed. Of course, this doesn't have to be a deal breaker. It could be something minor that you overlooked as well, right? You could start a new job that it seems like the ideal job, and then once you start, you find out that people are not very friendly, or it's not exactly what you thought. The terms are not what you thought of the job, especially with a salary. You can reconnect with people from the past, either attractions or previous relationships. And it can, as I said, it can simply be to bring some healing or bring some closure. Or you could realize that you were meant to be together when you reconnect with someone, which actually often happens with a Venus retrograde cycle. Or you could reconnect and see that the past was too idealized in your mind. Right? It could be related to relationships, but then it could also be related to money in some way. So it's always a test of your relationship with others, but also your relationship with money. How do you save money? How do you make money? Do you value money? These are some common general themes that can come up in any Venus retrograde. So, yeah. Now, we are going to address each sign separately to see what you can, some of the themes that you can expect at this time during that Venus retrograde. Yeah. Aries. Aries, for you, the Venus retrograde starts in your 5th house in Leo and Most of the transit, however, is in your fourth house. If you have children, there could be some adjustments in your life that you're dealing with them. If you have your own business, you could be changing it in some way. And if that's the case, it's a good time to do that. But either way, you will certainly be dealing with domestic matters now. You could be buying a property, you could be selling a property, you could be moving, you could be decorating or fixing up your home in some way. If you're thinking about buying a car at this time, it's a good time to look into it. Do some research, make some notes. But I'd wait till Venus goes direct to make the final decision. You could also decide to have a home business now. Or you can start working from home. It's a great transit for you because Venus gains Digbala in the fourth house. So it's a great time to spend at home with your family, entertaining guests, making your surroundings more beautiful in some way. If you have a partner, then they would be very supportive now. And if you're single, you can meet someone ambitious, an independent thinker. It could be someone from your background, your birth country, your home city. It's a feel-good transit for you, so make the most of it. Yeah. Taurus. For Taurus, it's Lagna Lord in the third house. This can bring some stress actually into your life. It can bring some strife into your domestic life, especially. And challenges can kind of spring out of nowhere, especially when it comes to domestic matters or your living situation, particularly when Mars is going through Leo until mid-August. So that's going to be a challenging phase up until August the 18th. It can also bring some problems with communication with your siblings, your co-workers. So watch what you say, watch what you write. A positive way to use this transit is to seek new opportunities, new ventures, whether it's funding for a new idea, a marketing strategy to attract more business, presenting ideas in your field to get more recognized. It's a good time to take a lead now in your work, in your business affairs. The transit through Leo is excellent if you work, especially if you work in the real estate business. But again, home and career matters can see some disturbance at this time. There can be some negative thinking also, especially regarding past issues that you've swept under the rug for some time. They could kind of creep up now. Health issues can also pop up, but I think you will find the solutions there. Practice diplomacy now where you can. This will help you dealing with the problems that will come up now. For you, the challenge will be communication. So you may wish to write down your thoughts. This will bring clarity. This will bring healing. If you feel like going on a retreat or being more introverted, then it's an excellent transit for that. Yeah. Gemini, for you, most of the retrograde transit takes place in your second house. It's fifth lord moving through second house. So it's a good time to spend at home with your children if you have any. You'll be reassessing your finances now, how you make money, how you spend money, what you value. For those that have been wishing to have a child, this is a time that you can see some progress. If you are in a Venus dasha at this time, or on Antardasha, you can see some sudden gains in wealth at this time as well. If you've had any health issues, then as aspect in the 8th house can help you get some relief now. Your expenses can go up now, but they will be for useful things. It's a good time, for instance, to decorate your home. It's a good time to connect with family members. If you need to do some financial planning, this is an excellent transit for it. It can help you immensely. Venus is a favorable planet for you. Yeah. So overall for you, this is a good transit. Cancer. This is a very important transit for you. You've got Venus transiting your first house. If you were thinking about going back to school to study any subject, it's an excellent time to plan that. It's a good transit to visit your home country, your birth country. In fact, travel can come up for you quite suddenly at this time. If you were thinking about buying a property or even a car, then this is the time to look into it. You can be facing a residential move. at this time. Great time spent at home, make improvements in your domestic life. 11th Lord in the first house means you can see some old connections, some old friends come back into your life now. This can also be an old love interest or a past relationship. Yeah, you'll be facing some difficult choices in your love life, whether to hold on to the past or to steer ahead and let it go. You may also have to rethink old patterns in your relationships and your expectations from others. Are they realistic? And are you asking for the right thing from others? This is a life-changing transit for you, Cancer, especially when it comes to your relationships. Take time for some reflection. It's a good time to reassess your own value. It's a good time to reassess your own worth in relationships and even how you make money. So, Leo, for you, it's the 10th Lord moving through your 12th house, the majority of transit when it's retrograde. So you may decide to work on your own now, independently, even in isolation. Some of you may take up a career opportunity abroad. If so, it would be very beneficial for you. You should pay attention to your hunches, to your dreams. They're going to give you clues on what actions you need to take now. And you'll also intuitively know how to solve any problems that come up now, which is quite helpful. It's a good time to reorganize your business or make changes in your profession, especially if this is related to your image in some way, how you're perceived by the public at large. You can face some hidden opposition now. The best remedy for that is to give donation, help underprivileged people, if you can do that. If you do, you'll be able to overcome the problems that you face at this time. It's a good time to strengthen your faith through prayer, through meditation. If you wanted to clear the clutter from your life or from your home, this is an excellent time for that as well. Now, because it's the 3rd Lord in the 12th house, your willpower can be on the low side. You may not feel like getting into any squabbles or fights with anybody. You may feel a little bit unmotivated now. You may also feel a bit lazy now. It's an excellent time to travel abroad, though. Or if you're thinking of moving, it's a good time to do some research, but wait till September to make the actual move. The portion where Venus spends in Leo in the beginning and the end of the transit is quite a fortunate transit because it's that 10th Lord sitting in the 1st house. It can make you popular. It can make you in demand. You'll be perceived in a good light. But because of the Mars there in the beginning of the transit, you can also come across as quite forceful. Your image can get boosted in some way. So, Virgo, you will have a good Venus transit. For you, it's the 2nd Lord, it's the 9th Lord, moving through the 11th house. It's excellent for gains, good for income. Your income could see a rise at this time. You may find another source of income. It's that Dhan Yoga taking place in Cancer, which is great for money. Gains could be connected to property, buying, selling, rental income. This could all be fruitful for you now. If you establish a new source of income now, it will steadily grow with time. After all, it's the highest Upachaya house, the 11th house, right? It's a good transit for those opting for higher education as well at this time. Any efforts you make will bring rewards. Spending time with children is also favorable for you now. If you were looking for a teacher, a guide, a mentor, then you will find someone now. It could also be someone returning from the past. Reconnecting with your father is also supported now with this transit. Father can go through some difficulties, so it's a good time to reconnect with him. So spend time with him. Yeah, it's a good transit for you. Libra, Venus will be transiting your 10th house. Lagna Lord in 10th house is an excellent transit for you. It will increase your popularity. You will be heard. You will be seen. It's an excellent time to get out there and network. You may get famous now through your activities. It could be through social media presence. You could see that more people are following you. You're being more recognized for something. Your career can see a sudden turn of events, though, because it is the 8th Lord and the 10th, right? So you may have to completely drop your current vocation, your job, and either take up another job or maybe create another business. A sudden opportunity can also come up, forcing you to take a completely different direction in life now. It could mean that you're learning new skills to upgrade your career. If there were relationships that needed some closure, that needed some healing, then this is the time to do it. You may be tempted to get even with a prior love interest or relationship partner. I'd say try to hold back here, because when Venus goes direct, that might backfire on you. If there were any ill feelings towards others, this is the time to resolve them through forgiveness, through letting go, if you can do that. Home life should be good now, though you may make some changes there as well, connected to career perhaps. Yeah. Scorpio. For you, Scorpio, it's your 7th Lord in the 9th house, so it's a good time to travel. It's a good time to learn a new subject. It's also a good time to look into any foreign business or dealings. If you have a business, then now you can develop it by reaching out to others that are far from where you're based. So foreign connections. Foreign connections that you've made in the past also may return. Any foreign dealings at this time will benefit you. If you're traveling, you can meet someone special. You can start a relationship. It's a good time to revise and reflect on the projects that you've been working on and make some adjustments there. If you're thinking about forming partnerships, then do your research before making any final decisions. Your partner can be lucky for you now in making some of these decisions. And you also may reconnect with someone you just cannot seem to get out of your mind. If that's the case, it's a good time to do that. Yeah. Sagittarius. For you, Venus is not an easy planet as it takes on that Dushtana 6th house lordship. So here, be careful about getting fights with others. It's a time when you can make enemies quite quickly, especially with women. You can also get into squabbles about your finances, especially if there are shared resources, such as property and investments with a partner. It's a good time to manage your finances now. You can see sudden gains now as well in your wealth, perhaps money coming from unexpected sources. It can also be an opportunity coming out of nowhere, quite unexpectedly. You can experience stress and anxiety now, because we're talking about 2 difficult houses getting activated, right? So take time for some self-care, very important. It's an excellent time to start a spiritual practice or get into the habit of having a daily practice. To study occult subjects too, it's a good time. You can find the answers that you've been looking for. Diving deep now actually can bring some rewards. Relationships can be the cause for stress at this time as well. So you also may be returning to an old relationship to make amends at this time. That's a good time for that. Intimate relationships from the past can return to your life. Maybe there was some distance between the two of you. Maybe there was some conflict, and that can get resolved now. Capricorn, for you, this can be a life-changing transit, depending on the dasha that you're going through. An old relationship can return to your life because Venus is transiting your 7th house. If you were separated from your partner, your spouse, then this would be a good time to make amends. For you, it's Yogark Venus, your best planet, ruling the 5th house and the 10th house, moving through your 7th house. It's a time where you could be focused on making career leaps. If you're self-employed or you're a business owner, then you could see some profits going up now. It's an excellent time to reorganize yourself in your business. If you're married, your spouse could see some lucky career breaks now as well. It's a time of growth. It's excellent to research new ventures, new partnerships. Return to past partnerships, resolve difficult problems. This is a good time for that. Venus in 7th can bring affairs as well, outside of your marriage, outside of your relationship. So it's certainly a time when you could be meeting people that are interested in you. Especially a good time to reconnect with those that you lost touch with. It's a time when you could fall head over heels in love with someone, but go slow, as you may not know all the information at this time. If you've been wanting to get married, you could, however, experience some delays at this time. Yeah. Aquarius. This transit of Venus through your 6th house can make you feel a little bit out of sorts. It can bring problems with your partner. It can make you feel that no matter how much you have, no matter how much you have in life, it just doesn't feel like it's enough. There can be a feeling of a deep dissatisfaction at this time. So you have to look into that. Why do you feel that way? You may also have to move, and you may not be looking forward to that. Or it may be that there are some disputes connected to property now. It could be a dispute connected to a woman in your life. So domestic life can be disturbed at this time. It's a good time to seek some healing. It's a good time to seek some alternative therapies. They will be effective now. This is especially the case if you're returning to therapy. That was started a long time ago. If you were having health issues now is the time that you could find a solution, a good solution. Because Venus is a powerful planet for you. There may be problems with your parents that crop up now, especially your mother. Be mindful of fights now, especially with the mother side of the family. You can feel very independent at this time. And you'll be tempted to take decisions on your own, irrespective of what your friends and family say. Yeah. Pisces, so for you, Venus is not an easy planet. It rules the 3rd house, it rules the 8th house, both of the Sthana houses. This transit can bring some problems with your children. If you have your own business, now is a time that you will be transforming this in some way. Perhaps you would be starting again after tying up your old business or self-employment. There will be some struggle, but the results are positive. Yeah. It's a good time to take initiatives if you want positive results. You can experience a sudden rise in your status, though, and wealth-making activities. So, for example, you could get a salary increase or a new job with a higher salary. If you have your own business, then profits can see an increase as well. Intuition for you is sharp now, so pay attention to your hunches because they would be spot on. When it comes to relationships, especially from the past, it's a good time to take some leaps. Perhaps you were too afraid to go after what you wanted. So now is the time to reassess, take some chances. Be bold in your speech. This will make you more attractive now. You can be very creative, you can be very ambitious, and that would bring rewards. It is a difficult planet, but in the 5th house, your fortune can increase, provided you take proper risk and initiative, despite the obstacles that come up. Yeah. Well, that's all for now, folks. All the best to everyone. Cheers.